Luigi Pirandello was a famous Italian writer from Italy. He wrote stories about people and their feelings. This story, War, shows how war makes life hard and sad. The mood of the story is serious and a little sad. War by Luigi Pirandello. The passengers who had left Rome by the night express had to stop until dawn at the small station of Fabriano. They then needed to continue their journey by the old-fashioned local train to Salmona. Some people were traveling from Rome by a night train. Because of the war, the train could not go all the way at night and had to stop at a small station called Fabriano. Everyone had to wait there until morning before they could continue their journey. After the stop, they took an old local train to reach a town called Salmona. At dawn, in a stuffy and smoky second class carriage in which a few people had already spent the night, a stout woman in deep mourning was hoisted in. Behind her, puffing and mourning, followed her husband, a tiny man, thin and weak. His face death white. His eyes were small and bright, and he looked shy and uneasy. In the train, there was a second class carriage that was small, stuffy, and smoky. A few people had already spent the night there, so it was not very comfortable. At dawn, a woman got on the train. She looked very sad and worried. Behind her came her husband. He was very small and thin, and his face was very pale. His eyes were small and bright. He looked shy, nervous, and uneasy, like he was scared or worried. He also puffed and moaned, showing that he was weak and tired. This paragraph shows that because of the war, traveling was difficult and tiring, and people were worried, unhappy, and weak. Having at last taken his seat, he politely thanked the passengers who had helped his wife by making room for her. Then he turned round to the woman and politely inquired, "Are you all right, dear?" The wife, instead of answering, pulled up the collar of her coat to hide her face. "Nasty world," muttered the husband with a sad smile. After finally sitting down in the train, the husband thanked the passengers politely because they had made space for his wife. Then he turned to his wife and asked her gently, "Are you all right, dear?" But the wife did not answer. She pulled up her coat collar to hide her face, showing that she was still very sad or worried. The husband smiled a little but sadly and whispered to himself, "Nasty world." Nasty means cruel or unfair. And he felt it his duty to explain to his traveling companions that the poor woman was to be pitied. The war was taking away from her their only son, a boy of 20. Both of them had devoted their entire life to him. They had even broken up their home at Salmona to follow him to Rome, where he had to go as a student. They allowed him to volunteer for war with an assurance that for at least 6 months he would not be sent to the war front. And now, all of a sudden, they received a wire from him saying that he was due to leave in 3 days' time. They were now going to see him off. The husband felt it was important to tell the other passengers about their sad situation. Their only son, who was 20 years old, was going to war. The parents had loved him very much all their lives. They had even moved their home from Salmona to Rome so they could be close to him while he studied. They allowed him to volunteer for the war, thinking that for at least 6 months he would not be sent to the front line. But suddenly they received a message from him saying he would leave for the war in 3 days. This made the parents very worried and sad. They were going to Salmona to see their son off, which means they were going to go with him to say goodbye and wish him well before he left. The woman was twisting and wriggling, at times crawling like a wild animal. She felt certain that all those explanations would not have aroused even a shadow of sympathy from those people. They were all, most likely, in the same plight as herself. One of them, who had been listening with particular attention, said, "The mother was extremely upset. She twisted and wriggled, sometimes growling like a wild animal, showing how scared and worried she was for her son. She also felt that no one else could understand her pain. She thought that maybe the other passengers were in the same situation, but still her worry was very deep. This paragraph shows how parents love their children very much and how hard it is for them to let their child go into danger. It also shows the sadness and fear that war brings to families. And there was a passenger who was listening very attentively and he was going to say something. You should thank God that your son is leaving for the front only now. Mine had been sent there the first day of the war. He has already come back twice wounded and been sent back again to the war front. So the passenger was saying the husband or the father is very lucky. It is only happening now. His own son was sent to the war from the very first day and he got hurt twice but had to go back to fight again. What about me? I have two sons and three nephews at the front, said another passenger. Another person joins the conversation. He says he has two sons and three nephews fighting in the war. He is also worried about them. Maybe, but in our case, it is our only son, ventured the husband. The first father responds. He says that for him, his son is the only child. He wants to explain that having only one child doesn't make the love any bigger than a parent with many children. What difference can it make? You may spoil your only son by excessive attentions, but you cannot love him more than you would love all your other children if you had any. Parental love is not like bread that can be broken in pieces and split amongst the children in equal shares. A father gives all his love to each one of his children without discrimination, whether it be one or 10. If I am suffering now for my two sons, I am not suffering half for each of them, but double. The father says that having only one child doesn't change how love works. You might think that parents with only one child love them more, but that is not true. He explains that love is not like bread that can be split into pieces. Parents give all their love to every child, whether they have one child or 10 children. He also says that if he is worried about his two sons, he doesn't worry half for each one. He worries fully for both, so his love and worry are double. True, true, sighed the embarrassed husband. But suppose a father has two sons at the front and he one of them, there is still one left to console him while. Yes, answered the other, getting cross. A son left to console him, but also a son left for whom he must survive in distress. Don't you see how my case would be worse than yours? So here the person is thinking, if a father has two children and sadly loses one child, the other child can comfort him. So he is imagining that having more than one child is a little easier because there is still someone left to make him feel better. The first passenger answers. He says that yes, there is one child left to comfort the father, but there is also a child left who is still in danger at the war front. This means the father must stay strong and live through the hard times for the sake of that child. The father explains that his situation, having only one child, is actually harder. If anything happens to his only child, he has no other child to share the worry or to comfort him. So, in a way, he feels more worried and alone in his suffering. Nonsense! Interrupted another traveler, a stout, red-faced man with bloodshot eyes. He was panting. From his bulging eyes seemed to spurt inner violence of an uncontrolled vitality. Nonsense, he repeated. Do we give life to our children for our own benefit? Here, another traveler joins the conversation. He is angry and upset. The description shows that he is very strong and full of energy, almost like he can't control his emotions. He repeats nonsense because he disagrees strongly with what the fathers were saying. He asks an important question. He says that parents don't have children just to feel comforted or happy themselves. Parents have children because they love them and want the best for them, not for their own benefit. So here a new passenger joins and he has his own perspective about having children. So he says Parents love their children for the children's sake, not for their own comfort. He says parents don't have children just to make themselves happy. The other traveler stared at him in distress, the one who had had his son at the front since the first day of the war site. You are right. Our children do not belong to us, they belong to the country. The father, whose son was sent to the war from the very first day, agrees with the angry traveler. He thinks the man is correct. The father explains that their children aren't just for them because the children are fighting in the war, they are serving their country. This means the children's duty to their country is bigger than anything else, even their parents' wishes. Bosh! Retorted the stout traveler. Do we think of the country when we give life to our children? We belong to them, but they never belong to us. And when they reach 20, they are exactly what we were at their age. Now, at our age, the love of our country is still great, of course, but stronger than it is the love of our children. Is there any one of us here who wouldn't gladly take his son's place at the front if he could? The stout man is asking, when parents have children, they don't usually think about the country. They have children because of love, not for any duty to the country. Parents take care of their children and love them, but children are independent individuals. They don't truly belong to their parents. They grow up to make their own choices. When children become adults around 20 years old, they are similar to what their parents were at that age. They have their own thoughts, feelings, and responsibilities. And also, the person says that even though adults love their country, they love their children even more. Parents' love for their children is the strongest kind of love. And then he asks a question, if it were possible, wouldn't every parent want to protect their child by going in their place? This shows how much parents love their children. They would do anything to keep them safe. There was a silence all around, everybody nodding as if to approve. Everyone listening agrees silently with what the man has been saying. They understand his point and think he is right. The stout man continued, isn't it natural that at their age they should consider the love for their country even greater than their love for us? If country is a natural necessity like bread, somebody must go to defend it. And our sons go when they are 20 and they don't want tears because if they die happy. The strong red faced man explains that when children grow up around 20 years old, it is normal for them to feel a very strong love for their country. Sometimes that love can even seem bigger than the love they feel for their parents. He says that a country is important like food. Everyone needs it to live safely. So someone must protect the country, and that is why the sons go to fight at the front. The man explains that young adults don't want their parents to cry for them. If something bad happens to them while fighting, they would be proud and happy to have done their duty for their country. So, even if something happens to them, they want their parents to be proud, not sad. Everyone should stop crying. Everyone should laugh, as I do, or at least thank God, as I do. Because my son, before dying, sent me a message. He was dying satisfied at having ended his life in the best way he could have wished. That is why, as you see, I do not even wear mourning. He shook his light fawn coat as if to show it off. His lips were trembling, his eyes were watery and motionless. He ended with a shrill laugh which might well have been a sob. Quite so, agreed the others. The father is saying that people shouldn't be too sad. They should try to be happy or thankful like he is trying to do. His son sent a message to him before he died, which made the father feel comforted and peaceful. The father says his son was proud and happy because he did what he thought was right and brave, even though it was dangerous. The father doesn't wear mourning clothes because he feels proud and thankful, not just sad. You can see his emotions clearly. He is shaking a little and his eyes are filled with tears, but he is trying to stay still. He laughs in a high, sharp way, but it also sounds a little like crying. This shows he is feeling both proud and sad at the same time. Everyone around him understands and agrees with how he feels. They say it is normal to feel both sad and proud. So here, the father lost his son but feels proud, thankful, and brave. Even though he is sad, he smiles and laughs because he remembers his son's courage. Everyone around him understands and respects his feelings. The woman, bundled in a corner, had been sitting and listening till he finished. For the last 3 months, she had been trying to find in the words of her husband and her friends something to console her. She wanted something that might show her how a mother should send her son to a probable danger of life. Her grief had been greater in seeing that nobody, as she thought, could share her feelings. So the woman was sitting quietly in the corner, listening to the person talks about his son. She was paying attention to everything he said. For 3 months, she had been looking for comfort or advice from her husband and friends. She wanted something to help her feel better about her worries for her own son. She was trying to understand how a mother can be brave and send her child to a dangerous situation like war, even though it might be risky. She felt even sadder because she thought no one else could understand how worried and upset she was about her son. So here the mother was sitting quietly listening to the person talking. She had been sad 4 months trying to find comfort from words of others. She felt even sadder because she thought no one understood her feelings. But now the words of the traveler amazed and almost stunned her. She suddenly realized that it wasn't the others who were wrong, but herself. It was she who could not rise up to the height of those others, other fathers and mothers. They seemed willing to resign themselves without crying, not only to the departure of their sons, but even to their death. The woman was surprised and amazed by what the father had just said. His words were very strong and brave, and she wasn't expecting them. She understood that it wasn't the other parents who were strange or wrong for being brave. The problem was her own fear and sadness. She felt that she wasn't as brave yet as the other parents. She hadn't learned how to be strong in the face of danger for her child. The other parents seemed calm and accepting, even though their sons were going to war and might die. They could face the danger without crying, showing great courage and strength. So the other parents were able to accept the risk for their children without crying. She saw that being brave and calm is important when children are in danger. She realized that she had been too afraid and worried, not the others. She lifted her head and bent over from her corner. She was trying to listen with great attention to the details which the stout man was giving to his companions. He was telling them the way his son had fallen as a hero for his country, happy and without regrets. It seemed to her that she had stumbled into a world so far her. The woman sat up and leaned forward. She wanted to hear better and pay close attention to what the man was saying. She was carefully listening to every part of the father's story, especially the details about how his son acted and what happened to him. The father was explaining that his son died bravely as a hero. He was proud and satisfied, and he didn't regret the things he did to protect his country. The woman felt like she had entered a completely new world. She had never imagined how brave and accepting parents could be when their children were in danger. The woman leaned forward to listen carefully, so she was proud. She realized there was a whole new world of courage and acceptance she hadn't seen before. And she was so pleased to hear everyone joining in congratulating that brave father so stoically speaking of his child's death. Then suddenly, as if waking up from a dream, she turned to the old man asking him, "Then, is his son really dead?" Everyone stared at her. The old man too turned to look at her. He fixed his great, bulging, horribly watery eyes deep in her face. For some time he tried to answer, but words failed him. He looked and looked at her. The woman felt happy and impressed because everyone was praising the father for being so brave and calm while talking about his son's death. Suddenly, the woman realized something and asked the father directly if his son had really died. She was curious and surprised as if she had been dreaming. All the people around were surprised by her question. They hadn't expected her to ask that. The father looked closely at her. His eyes were big and full of tears, showing his strong emotions. He wanted to answer, but he couldn't find the words. He just kept looking at her, showing how much he felt inside. So here ends the story. The story shows us the love and bravery of parents. Parents love their children deeply no matter how many children they have. Love isn't divided, it is full for each child. Parents sometimes have to let their children take risks, like going to help their country or do something brave. Even though it is hard, they try to be strong and accept what happens. The story also shows that being brave doesn't mean never feeling sad. The father stayed calm and proud at first, but he still felt deep sadness when he realized the truth. Feeling sad is natural, even for strong and brave people. The woman in the story learns a lesson too. She sees that courage means accepting things we cannot control and supporting our children even in dangerous situations. So, the idea is love, courage, and pride can exist together with sadness. Parents can feel proud of their children's bravery while also feeling sorrow. Parents love their children completely, no matter how many children they have. Sometimes children have to do brave things that are dangerous. True courage is loving, accepting, and supporting your children even in hard times.